Hi, everybody. I am just making sure that you can see me. Hey, you can see me. And hopefully you can hear me okay. Turn up my volume just a tad. You can see me. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Turn up my volume just a tad. All right, so here I am. I did it all by myself, and I finally figured it out. My problem was that Google Chrome wasn't letting me go through, so I had to go through another web page. But anyway, here we are. So I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. It's just a couple days away, and I hope you're all ready, and I hope everything is going well for you. Here in the Northwest, we've had some really crazy weather, but an extremely dry summer and fall, and then we had flooding. We had 7 inches of rain in one day. We had 2 tenants that were displaced and lots of leaking roofs, and we're still kind of recovering from that. And now yesterday we had winds up to 64 miles an hour, and so we have a lot of down roofs, trees, and shingles flying all over the place. Anyway, so we've been rather busy. We have crews still working right now. So today I wanted to talk to you about how to evaluate a property, and then how to try and work hard to stick to your timeline. And seeing as how I have the little reader board here, could one of you tell me if you can hear me okay? And hopefully everything's working all right. Looks like you can see me, so that's good. I have the website on my phone so that I can see what you guys are, if you're saying anything to me at all. So so let's get started here. So depends upon what you're going to do with your property and how you're going to do that evaluation. If you're going to fix and flip, you're going to need to get a deeper discount, and you're going to really have to watch your numbers on what the expenses are in order to make any money on that, because it can easily get out of control and you're over budget. If you're going to buy and hold, that's a whole different set of numbers for you. And so if you're going to wholesale, you still need to know those numbers, because your end buyer is going to want to know. So when you're evaluating a property, the big things for me, I'll just kind of walk you through how we do it. The biggest things for me is are there any major structural issues with that house? Is the roof coming off? Is there a whole bunch of black mold? Is the foundation at risk? Are the floors like this? Is it leaning? What does it look like? Is there huge cracks in the foundation? Is there sinkholes? And one important thing to look, especially if you're in a wet area, is are the gutters, what have they been? What are they like? How long have they been that way? Because if your gutters are not working properly, that water's going right underneath your house and into the foundation, and then you jeopardize having those floors fall. So that's a big thing to watch or to look at. Another thing to look at is the electrical box. Has there been electrical updates? Is it a 2-prong outlet, and are they grounded? Or is it a three-prong, and is it grounded? Because that's a major expense if you have to replace electrical in the entire building and the electrical panel. Of course, prices are a little bit different everywhere, but just to get a panel replaced for us is a minimum of $1,000 just for a new panel. And then you got to look at, and the big thing about the panel is that an appraiser is going to call it out right away. If you have a Zebco or older models, they really will insist on that replacement. if you have a buyer, if you're going to flip that, and we've had that happen before, you think you're going to get away with it, and you know it's going to be okay, because in a rental, if it was a rental property, it wouldn't matter. You could rent it out just like that. But if you're going to sell to an end buyer, a retail buyer especially, they don't know that, and it scares them. They've heard all kinds of things, so you're going to have to replace that panel. With that panel, then how are the outlets? If you have to rewire an entire house, it's going to cost you a good $10,000 to $20,000 depending upon the size of the house and where you're at. So that's a really big expense. Replacing a roof, and how much roof damage is it? Is the roof so saturated that it went through, got all the ceilings, the rafters at risk because now they're all moldy? So what is that? And so you need to look at that. Now here, an average little house that we buy that's about 1,400 square foot is somewhere between $5,000 and $7,000. We're not seeing roofers do overlays anymore. They used to put 2-3 layers of shingles on a property, but now they really don't like to do that. They just want to tear it off and start new. And depending upon that damage, you might have a whole bunch of sheetrock you have to replace also. So those are just things you need to look at. Also, what's your plumbing like? The nice thing about plumbing is, yes, it can be a big expense, but it's nothing near a foundation issue or even an electrical issue. It's a lot cheaper to replumb a whole house. And sometimes we will choose just to go ahead and replumb the whole house just so we don't have to come back and worry about it later. One thing that does happen is that if you have copper tubing or plumbing in your house and it sits vacant for very long, there just might be somebody that goes underneath the house and takes it all. And yes, that has happened to us. So really it's just best to put the PEX in, and then you don't have to worry about it. So those are probably the biggest things. Flooring, there's all kinds of things you can do with your flooring. A lot of people choose to do it differently. There's new products out there that are kind of a vinyl laminate, and they snap together. We're finding that works really well in rental houses. And laminate itself has improved so much over the last few years that it's not near as inefficient as it used to be. It used to be if it got wet at all, then it was so would all swell up and you have to replace everything. But now there's better products out there. And sometimes, especially if you're going to use it for a rental or even a flip, you want it to look pretty, right? So you're going to have to buy a little upper end. If you're a rental, buy a nice product, but you don't have to buy the cheapest, but you sure in the heck don't have to buy the most expensive, because you got to watch that bottom dollar. Those are probably the biggest things for us that we watch. You also want to consider curb fill. When you are doing a fix and flip especially, you want that house to look pretty. It's got to look inviting, and I can tell you, if it doesn't look inviting, people aren't going to go and look at your property, because it's those little things that cause a person to want to go into the house that's going to sell that house for you. So if it looks like crap on the outside, nothing's trimmed, nothing's edged, there's pieces of debris, shingles or siding or whatever laying in the yard, you're not going to get near top dollar. So you may as well spend the extra money and have somebody landscape that yard. It doesn't have to be extravagant, just cleaned up, edged, and looking pretty, looking nice. It doesn't have to be flowers and bushes everywhere, nothing like that. Just nice and clean and tidy is probably the best way to put it. A little bark dust here and there doesn't help, or doesn't hurt either. So when you're evaluating the property, some of the things you want to do, not only just with the structure, but how it appears, or excuse me, what the numbers are. You need to know what your numbers are. Is the property going to cash flow? One of the simple ways to do it is called the 1% rule, and it's where your rents need to equal 1% of the purchase price. And if they don't, then you know it's probably not going to cash flow. Now, if it's close and maybe you put 25% down or something, that's going to help that number, those numbers work out okay. But for me, especially with a multi-unit, it's got to meet the 10% rule, or the 1% rule. So if it's a $80,000 house, your rents need to at least be $800 a month. And that's how you figure that out. So if it's a $50,000 house, you got to rent it out for at least $500 a month. And hopefully it doesn't need a whole lot of work. Now, when you're figuring out your holding costs for those properties, the other things you need to evaluate is what are the taxes, how much are you going to manage it? If you're going to hold it, you have to have taxes, your mortgage, your insurance costs, your management costs, your maintenance costs, and a vacancy rate fee. So much of a percentage. Depends upon the house, but it could be $30 to $70 a month, depending upon your house and the size of it and your area. Now, rents in our area are going up, so that's been very helpful. So when you're calculating that out, you want to definitely have in your head what's that going to rent for. And then to know what it's going to rent for, you need to know your area. One of the nice simple things to use is Rent-O-Meter. It's not too far off. I've been using it quite a bit here on new properties, and it's pretty accurate to where we're placing our rents. So it's just Rent-O-Meter, and just plug your address in and kind of give you an idea. The other thing to do to figure out what your rents are in your area, because every area is a little different, is call the property management companies. Say that you're an owner and you are looking to rent out your house, and what would a house similar to this rent for? In fact, when I started, that's how I started to figure out the rents. And then, of course, you can look at the ads in the local papers there and kind of get an idea of what they're renting for also. Because you don't want to rent it too low, because that's not a good deal for you. And if you place your rent too high, you're not going to rent it out anyway. So you really have to know your market. If you're going to wholesale that property, your investor is going to want to know. And if you flip it to another investor, they're going to want to know what the rents are also. The only one that's not going to care is a retail buyer, because they're not going to rent it. So those are things you need to know about it. When you're evaluating a house, you want to make sure that you like the area. Some people are not afraid of the war zones. Some people function quite well there, some investors that is, and others are scared to death. We find it quite comfortable to be in a C neighborhood, CB neighborhood, working class, and sometimes even a D, depending upon where it is. And in different areas, even just a block away can be a whole different type of environment than where you're purchasing. We have little areas here, and there's one street that separates it. And on one side of the street is lower end, and on the other side of the street is probably a CB neighborhood. So it really depends on where you're buying. And if you're going to resell. If you're going to resell, you don't want to buy in a D, maybe not even a C. You probably want a B neighborhood. They flip better. And then if you're wholesaling, of course, you want to know where your wholesale buyer is going to be buying, or where they're comfortable being. So all those things you need to evaluate. Another thing that you can find out is how many sex offenders are in the area. Now that's a biggie for a lot of people, especially if you're flipping. We did lose a flip just based on that. They ran a report, and you can get it all online now. And they ran a report, and they found that there was 7 sex offenders in the neighborhood, which I wasn't even aware of at the time. And they totally backed out of the deal. And it cost us another, I think it was 60 days holding costs, because they backed out of the deal. Plus they got their earnest money back because that was in the contract. So know your area, know who's around you. If I'm going to flip, I'm going to be in a B neighborhood. So okay. So one thing I did want to mention when you're evaluating your houses is that, what do the windows look like? Are they newer windows, or are they the metal windows, aluminum windows? It's very spendy to replace windows. So, you know, a house that's going to have 8 to 10 windows, that's probably going to be $10,000 or so right there in that area. So that's a very big consideration. We go in and I don't care about the roof really. We don't really care too much about that. If it has newer windows and it has a good electrical box, we're okay. The rest of it we can probably fix, but those are the two biggest expenses because you can do a lot of stuff with $10,000. You can upgrade a lot of things, make it a nicer house, maybe do something outside versus inside. So those are things to look at. Let's see. Other things as when you're working with a contractor, if you are working with a contractor, or even if you're working with yourself, you need to make yourself a timeline. So the easiest way to do that is kind of like telling a story, and I would say that because you have to start at the beginning. So what are you going to do first? You have to outline what you're going to do first, second, third. What order are these things going to go in? Because if you don't have a plan, you are going to you're going to be so far over budget, and it's going to take you forever to do. Believe me, been there. So make a plan. What are list all the things that need to be done, and decide what needs to happen first. So of course, the first thing that's going to happen is you need to demo that place out. Right? So demo. And demo's going to happen. So what I do is I get a calendar, just a 30-day calendar, because your rehabs realistically should be six to 8 weeks long. At least that seems reality because there's always something comes up that slows you down, it seems like. So the first week or so, you're just demoing out, getting all the demo done, whether that's carpet, flooring, old appliances, garbage, things that were left in the house. Maybe you have to take some sheetrock out, all that stuff. That's what you want done first. And if you find a good rehab team, they will kind of have an idea of how that needs to go too. But nobody really told us in the beginning. We just thought we just jumped in, like a lot of us. But here on IE, you got a lot of people that can help you. So don't just jump in if you don't have to. A lot of us can give you an idea of where to start. So first thing you're going to do is the demo that first week. And they maybe with after the demo, then you're going to start sheetrock repairs, or some on that line. The last thing you're going to do is carpet. You don't want to do carpet or any of your flooring first, right? So that's going to be the very tail end. We usually do that, and that's the very last thing, and then we send a cleaner in to fine clean at the very, very end. So you don't definitely don't want to put that first. Your windows, of course, some of that's going to be dependent upon the weather, but all this interior work can start. So you're going to do the sheetrock repairs, and you're going to have your tape and texture, and then your painting, and then after that you're going to do your outlets and your lighting. Maybe this when you're going to install your cabinets, and level out the floor or whatever you have to do to those repairs. But get a timeline down and then stick to that timeline. A lot of people will have their contractor sign each week and what the progress is. We just have them give us a weekly update on where things are, and if they think how much longer they think it's going to be, and how much if they think they're over or under. We've gotten a lot better. Did get a lot of help from Jeff and Melissa and Nicole and David. It was very helpful for us. We really hadn't done a whole lot, just kind of slowly until this year. And after we went to had a conference, we decided that, well, maybe we better do it a little bit better. So we've kind of tried to streamline and hone in on the important key factors of getting these property ready. So right now we're doing 2 to 3 a month, and doing pretty well at it right now. Of course, you got to make sure you have the capital to do so. So your timeline is very important. Don't just listen to people and think that they're always gonna tell you exactly the truth. You have to do your due diligence and have to go look what they're doing. because if they can figure out they're going to pull the wool over your eyes, they will. Well, I'm glad you can hear me. So it's very important. I insist that they do the little things that a lot of people overlook. So I have, I'll just show you here. I have my trusty green tape. This green tape, I go in with my green tape when they think they're about done, and I start marking things that I don't like if it's not done correctly. So say you have an outlet and there's just a little gap where the sheetrock, the outlet cover is not covering, there's a little hole, it's not connected with the sheetrock all the way around. That's got to be fixed. I don't like it. I don't care if it's a rental or whatever. That can't be. Another pet peeve of mine is when people put in lighting and then they forget to paint up around the light. Why, I'm not sure, but I seem to find that one quite a bit. But my crews know if I come in with this green paint, that means that's wrong, and they they don't like it. Oh no, here she comes again. But that's okay. I don't care. I'm paying them to do a good job, and if they don't want to do a good job, then we have to find another team, and that's how that goes. So with your timeline, a lot of times, one of the things you can consider is giving them a bonus if they beat that timeline when you set it up, or that's the positive way to do it, or the negative way is they lose so much a day for every day they go over the budget. It's really hard to find a team that really wants to work hard. A lot of them just take a long time, and seems like there's a lot of excuses. Driving by a rehab and seeing nobody there at your house really is frustrating, because you're paying them. Every day is money, and so you need to be very upfront with them that you want them to do a good job. I've kind of gotten off track here, but I want you to know that sticking to the timeline is really important. Now, when you're evaluating a property on how much it's going to cost, I did want to share this sign here, and I hope that you guys can read my scribble. This is something from Matt, and I use it quite a bit. Of course, this is going to vary in depending upon the city. If you're in New York or LA, of course, these figures aren't going to work as well. But if you're in my area or Alabama or in the Tri-Cities or something like that, then you're going to use these, and you're going to get pretty close to it. And the more you do it, the better you're going to be. But this really works well for just an at-a-glance type of process. This helps me make an offer on a property. So I know that I've got a 1,000 square foot house, it's a 3-bedroom, and I'm not going to move any walls. It needs more than just paint, so it's probably going to be in here. I'm not going to no new cabinets, paint primer, flooring, and spruce it up a little bit. And probably going to do this one. This is the one. These are really easy to do. This is a little bit harder, takes a little bit more time, but very profitable here. That's a big job, and do you have the manpower to do it? That's probably the biggest thing with that one. But it's a nice, easy cheat sheet for you to use. So I'd like to open it up to questions. If anybody's got any questions, it's kind of hard to fill an hour. It was much easier when I was typing, because I would type slow. But if you have any questions regarding this or any other kind of thing, I'm more than happy to help you. If you want to know anything about negotiating or other things like that, just feel free to ask a question. So if we go back to property evaluation, when you're figuring that out, you need to know what your holding costs are going to be. And the things we discussed earlier are going to help you to do that, because you need to make sure you have cash on hand if you're going to do a rehab or rent ready or anything else, because money don't grow on trees. So we've got 5 going right now, 5 rehabs right now. We have one team that's kind of behind and not really happy with them right now. They are, well, they're not really that behind. I'm just being picky. But it's really looking good. Just had the electrical inspector in there, so it's going well. We're trying to decide whether we're going to keep it or flip it. Don't know. It could be, we could flip it, but if I could refi it out, I'd rather save it and just have the renters pay for the property. I know we have a really, really small group here tonight, so if you have questions, please type away. Now, Andy, I know you're out there and I know you have a question, so please ask. So let's see. If you're doing a heavy fixer, you need to get some estimates. I would get some estimates before I get out of my inspection period. Because if you get into a foundation issue or even a major structural issue, that could cost you thousands of dollars. One thing that just came up for us is a house that we had it all done. Everything's, pretty much everything's ready. We're getting ready to rent it. And then now there's a sinkhole in the driveway. Is that just because it was it's a drainage issue? Is it because there was a tank down there, or is it a sinkhole? We don't know yet, and it's been raining so much we can't get really anybody to evaluate it quite yet, so it'll have to wait a little longer. But there's big things that can happen that can really mess you up. But otherwise, it could be absolutely nothing. It could be somebody put a stump down there, for heaven's sakes, and now it's rotted. We really think that it's just things weren't, the runoff from the city was going underneath the driveway and washed some of the dirt out. So that's what we think. Let's see. So one of the, for if you're flipping a property, you want to make sure that you consider what your rehab expenses are going to be. You want to know what your commission costs are going to be, because you're going to list that property. Each agent typically gets 2% on each side, so that's 6%. Closing costs are typically 3%. So if you are going to pay their closing costs, now this will burn you too. If you're going to pay their closing costs, that's an additional 3% at least. So it's going to be double what you anticipated. So always factor that in. We usually factor that in as that's what's going to happen, and then we're very happy when it doesn't. And then also you want to factor in a price adjustment, because things could go down, could go up, depends on what's going on with your market. Right now, our market, everything's doing really well. So I don't think we'd have, our 3% might be up instead of down. It depends on what type of market you're in. If you're on it trending down or you're trending up, what's going on? Or is it flat and is it just going to stay? Always, I'm talking a little bit about wholesaling. You want to get also, not just wholesaling, but buying and hold. You also want to get good pictures of the property before you start any kind of rehab. And then you want to get pictures as you go along and pictures at the end. Because your private money people, when you start talking with them or marketing to them, like we did today, we had a big meeting this morning. Our private money person that we like to use a lot is out of money, so we have to go to another guy. And so we have to show him all kinds of things. Dan is going to drive him around tomorrow and show him 4 properties, 1 completed, 1 that needs to start, and 2 that we're going to purchase. So it's very helpful to have those before and after pictures of your rehab, so they know what kind of work you're doing. If somebody's going to put private money in, they definitely don't want to risk it on somebody that's doing shoddy work. So you want to do good work. Let's see. Oops. Sending out a message here. Oh. I am asking, are you guys awake? Or we're not? I don't like doing this with my phone very well. So, Andy, you have any questions for me? I'm interested. They won't do it. So, well, if no one has any questions, let me just pause a little bit. I want to check and make sure my connection is okay, and I will be right back. Okay. See, that had froze. Okay, sorry. More in listening mode tonight. Okay, Andy. Okay, so question is, what is the best way you have found to pay your contractors? Do you use a general contractor and then let him farm out the electrical, plumbing, etc.? We really like to keep it all in house. It seems to be cheaper that way, but some contractors definitely don't want to touch the electrical because if there's an inspection involved, plus the city will usually call you on that too. So what we do is we usually pay them in thirds or fourths. So we'll give them 1/3 down, and as things progress, then we'll give them advancements after that. And a good thing to do is only allow them so many draws too. We like our teams to be able to do most everything. Anytime you let them farm out, it's going to cost you more money. And most of them should be able to do almost everything. And Andy, I like to pick on you. And no, I don't do any remote wholesaling. I have been staying pretty busy in my own backyard. And I need to step out and do some, but we haven't done that yet. Right now, we're just focusing here. We're picking up 2 a month and renovating those. We're really just buying and holding. We're not looking to flip. We have our own property management company, so I'd have a hard time trusting another property management company if I was to buy and hold somewhere else. You really got to check your people out there. I've heard quite a few horror stories. We try not to price gouge our people, but you know, things happen too. So yeah, it does seem to be the general consensus. It's just easier. It's easier to grasp because you can see, feel, and touch it. So you can drive by at any time. It's easier to get private money people to, at least local, to invest in properties they can go see with or without you. But really, once they get to know you, they'll do pretty much anything you want. Well, guys, not many questions, and I'm sorry there's only 5 of us online here. But still, it was good stuff. Or have any of you out there done a deal? Let me know about that. We closed 1 on the 4th of this month, and we have 2 more to close before the end of the month. It'll be our busiest year yet, and I can't wait to see the final numbers. It's kind of exciting. It's nice to have that experience. It took us a long time to get there, so don't any of you think you can't do it. It took us a long time. Wow. So, oh, I could tell you about our last deal. From the leads from the hospital. I haven't had any, well, let's see. I haven't really had any luck as far as purchasing anything from the hospital. We pick up tenants all the time, and we pick up a lot of property management properties from the hospital. So, that's all good. You say zero, I'm a CEO of $0 so far. Hey, that's okay. You got to start somewhere. So was I. So Andy has 2 deals in the works and 1 done so far this year. So Andy has 3 deals. That's great. You got to start. You have to start. And Andy, you're doing fine. I know the details behind yours, and you're doing a good job. So Mr. Is it Mr. Johnson? I'm just going to say Johnson because I'm not quite sure where the first name is. When we started, we had $0. We didn't know what to do. We were scared to death. I can remember trying to wholesale our very first deal. We called it the House of 7 Doors. There were 7 exterior doors on this house. We thought we knew what we're doing. That seller was so upset with us. He called us scammers. He called us everything. All we were trying to do is just wholesale it, right? So we were trying to get somebody to buy it. We didn't know what we were doing. Anyway, he screamed and yelled, and it was awful. I thought he was going to call the police on us and turn us in for doing something illegal. But we made it through that, and we didn't let it stop us. We kept going. We just have had our last 2 deals. I am in Washington State, Southwest Washington. So I'll tell you a little bit about negotiating. What I'm finding here lately is if you're going to buy a property, get it under contract, do your inspection, go back and counter with that inspection. We had one just drop 10 grand down. We had a really big one drop just $10,000 down. And then today we just had another one drop 2,000. And it's not much, but when it's a $50,000 house, it does make a difference. So I'm finding that even if there isn't a whole bunch structurally wrong, if you go back and counter just a little bit based on the work that needs to be done, they will drop a little bit more. And even if it's $2,000, it's $2,000 you didn't have before. So always counter. Don't pay retail for nothing. That's our motto. There's a lot of people here on IE that are investing in Southern Cal. You should be able to reach out to somebody down there. Maybe they can help you. Maybe somebody's close to you. But I'm in Southwest Washington, and if you want any advice, I'd be more than happy to help. Make offer and final counter on offer after the inspection. Exactly. Make your offer, get it under contract, get it pending. Then you're pending inspection. You have a 5, 10, 14-day inspection period, as long as you can get. If it's not a listed property, we're getting an inspection period for 30 days. If it's a listed property, it's typically 10. So do your inspection, and then if you're working with the agent, they'll know where to put it, because you put it in a section where it's in your inspection response form. And what I write is purchase price to be $50,000 due to repairs found. And so then I'll just list foundation issues, electrical box, old windows need replaced, outdated heating, anything like that. And because there's 2 things here. Once you tell them about it, they have to disclose it to anybody else that wants to buy the property. And 2, they really don't want to fix it. Most people don't want to fix it. They just want it to go away. So instead of asking them to make the repairs, we do it that way. So that they can see that we are going to take it, that we want more money off because of all these repairs over here. And it's less for you to finance. So guys, don't give up hope. It's keep going. I've been at this for 10 years already. I can't believe it. And it's worth every penny. I'm still out of my job. I'm running my company, and we're making money, so I can't complain. Andy says the best advice I have is don't try to do it all alone. Help from others is how I finally am getting things done. And Andy's exactly right. Don't try to do it yourself. There's so many people here on IE that are at different levels that can have just advise you. And for us, that's what the thing that we needed. It's not that we were afraid of the work. You can figure out, you can work hard, but if somebody can tell you how to do it, like when earlier this year when we talked to Jeff and Melissa and David and Nicole, and they gave us direction on how to set up a timeline, it's made the biggest difference. Now we're getting things done like we should. So don't do it alone. Ask for help. How long does it take for the seller to respond during the inspection period? Do you have time to WS to the end buyer? Typically it is 24 hours. You can write in how long you want to give them. It also depends upon the day of the week. If you're responding on a Friday, I always give them till Monday. A lot of people don't want to wear their whatever hat during the weekend. They just want to be with family. If it's like right now, we're in the holiday season, so you're going to be postponing things for a few days versus one wholesale. Thank you. I'm sorry. I don't know why I didn't get that. Do you have time in a wholesale to, yeah, and you do. The best thing you can do with the wholesale deal is put that inspection period out as long as you can do it, because that's going to give you more time to get any estimates you need, negotiate that price down. And even though you have it, maybe you're going to wholesale it, there's nothing saying that you couldn't negotiate that price down a little bit more anyway. Well, for the 5 of you, I guess that's including me, I appreciate all the questions. I appreciate you being here. I want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas. Please take care of yourself. Travel safely. And I will look for you all later. Get some more daily wisdoms coming out for you to see. Time limit. The time limit for them to respond to your inspection response typically is 24 hours, just based on the day of the week. Hi, Robert. And you're very welcome. I hope I am a nice person, and I try to be. So happy holidays. Merry Christmas, everybody. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I will catch you in about 6 weeks. Thanks, everyone. Bye.